Good evening and welcome to Simple Scotch Reviews. So here's a hopefully quick, impromptu review. Just got a sample, so figured gotta review it because it's all I got of it. So let's take a look at this one. So here we have the Kirkland 24 years Speyside sherry finished single malt Scotch whiskey. It's bottled by Alexander Murray & Co. So just taking a look here at this whiskey. So obviously it's a 24 year, so it's been a lot of time in a barrel. 46% ABV. I don't think I said that. So 46% ABV. So one thing I'll note is it says it's sherry cask finished for a minimum of 6 months. So what I'm just going to say is it could be finished for 6 months, but I saw another review about this whiskey say something about they must have used wet casks, sherry cask. I don't know how that works. How wet you can have, I don't know. I just know that for a sherry cask whiskey, the amount of sherry influence I get on this thing, I don't know. From these Speyside Kirkland ones, it's not just this one, it's the 20-year I reviewed too. I get a lot of sherry influence to the point of like, if it's just 6 months in a sherry cask compared to other sherry finished whiskeys I've had, they're doing something different with the casking. Just it's a lot of sherry for 6 months, but let's take a close look here. And the color, I mean, it's dark. I know it's not natural colored, but for it to be that reddish tinged, I mean, caramel coloring isn't going to make it red, but let's take a look. So right away on the nose, there's a lot of oak. There's almost a mustiness, but that starts to fade the longer you have it in the glass. That wood note is the dominant note immediately for me. But then behind that muskiness, there's some grape and some cherry. The two fruits I get kind of reminds me of like kids' cough syrup growing up. There's also a strong element of like a dark sweetness, like a dark brown sugary note in there. So I know people hate the word smooth. It's smooth from the standpoint of the amount of alcohol burn perceived, which is how I use smooth. I don't care what other people use smooth for. For me, smooth equates to the lack of alcohol burn. There's not a lot of alcohol burn. But it doesn't drink like a 24-year-old whiskey. Based off the other 24 and plus year old whiskeys I've sampled, it doesn't drink like that, but you're also not paying the price of a 24-year-old whiskey, so that's not too concerning to me. I'm just going to note that if you're expecting this to be like a different 24-year-old whiskey you've had, maybe a Glendronach 18, it's not going to seem as highly aged, but let's keep going. On the palate, that musty, oaky note, if there's some strong woody note right away on the palate, almost there's a musty note, but then there's a syrupy sweetness, and then the fruit starts to hit. It's not as much fruit as I was expecting based off the nose and everything. That oaky note, but now the more sips I take, it's like that musty oaky note isn't really as prevalent as I was thinking it was. The dark brown sugary note's definitely there. So what I'd say for the palate, initially there's that oaky note, but the more I have it, I'm not getting as much. But there's a rich honey, a dark brown sugar, just those rich sweetnesses. But with those rich sweetnesses, there's also there's the fruit from the nose, but it's kind of subdued. I was really expecting more fruit on this whiskey, but the sweet notes seem to be getting the spotlight for me. As the palate fades, it is a lingering finish. And in that finish, once you get to the, aftertaste, I really start getting more of those, baking spice notes, like those Christmassy spices I get in some other whiskeys, especially sherry cask. the sweet syrupy note lingers, and it is a pretty long finish. Overall, expectations are set at a certain level for this whiskey, but for me, based off the price. I'm not comparing it to other 24-year-old whiskeys because I don't know. I know it's cheaper some places and probably more expensive others. I think it was something like $70. $70 for a 24-year-old whiskey is a bargain. So I'm going to compare it. I would compare it in my mind's expectation with other whiskeys in the similar price range, not age statement. And for that, it's a good value whiskey, and I definitely, it definitely makes me want to keep trying the new sherry cask Kirkland releases that come out. Not super complex, like I'm sure you noticed when I gave my tasting notes. That rich honey, maybe some rich dark brown sugar, and then those fruit notes, which I kind of hoped would be a little stronger. But I am getting the cherry for sure. It's not super complex. It's a 24-year-old whiskey, but it's not super complex. And that's not a knock on it, but for the price range, again, great value for the price. So definitely I'm going to put a must try and a definite recommend. If you live in a state where Costco sells to non-members, definitely check that out if you're not a Costco member. Sam's Club, I believe their policy is all Sam's Clubs will sell to non-members for alcohol, just to make it a blanket policy. I think Costco goes state by state, so you have to look into your local rules for that. But either way, it's a good whiskey, especially the Costco membership. Just go in there, get it. I know my state's been 6 months or more behind others getting them, so yours might have not come in yet when you're watching this, or it might be long gone if you've seen it, because they're limited releases. I know they've had a 20-year-old, I believe a 23 and a 24 within the last 2 years. So definitely, whatever one comes up, they've all been good, so try them. Yeah. It's just an interesting, what I referred to as that musty, almost oaky note I got again. It's not what I expected. But either way, there is a considerable amount of sherry influence, I feel, just for the 6 months. Be interesting to know what the, if it is 6 month finished, what the 23.5-year-old whiskey tasted like before they sherry finished it. I'd be really interested to see. But either way, if they charged what other 24-year-old whiskeys cost, I would never even think about wanting to buy this bottle. But at the price, good deal. If you got questions, ask them in the comments. Like, subscribe, check out the other reviews. Tons more coming. Got a big queue. So we'll get through those as soon as possible. Hope you enjoyed this quick hitter impromptu off the cuff review. Thanks for watching.